How I got revenge on my ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend. A friend suggested I post this here. This happened a couple of years ago. I 28F was dating Max 29M for 5 years. We were full on together. We lived together, shared finances, had 2 dogs, etc. My best friend Amy 28F lived 10 minutes away, so we were always with each other. We were pretty much the 3 musketeers. One day I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see my boyfriend in the background of a picture posted to our local bars page. He was supposed to be at work and I'd never been given a reason not to trust him, so I figured it was an older picture as we go there a couple times a month. But when he got home he was wearing the same blue button-up and jeans. I had a horrible feeling in my stomach. But I didn't say anything. That night I went through his phone. Yeah, I know. But we've always shared passwords and have never had an issue with using each other's phones. When I checked his messages I saw a chain with someone named Jack. We didn't know a Jack, so I read through them and my heart just fucking breaks. I've known my best friend since we were in diapers. I know how she texts. But I checked the number just to be sure, and yeah, they were talking behind my back. Not just talking though, there were pictures and mentions of sexual acts that had happened. I spent the night crying and sending myself all of the screenshots and everything I could find. By morning, I realized that I can't just confront them. I need to prepare. So I set out to put money aside. I tell him our fridge is broken, so I'm using some of our savings to fix it. We need a plumber for this or a handyman for that. All lies, but I needed a reason to pull money out of the account we both had access to. It took me 2 months, but I was able to pull enough out to put a deposit and pay a couple months in advance on a new app that I found that was closer to work and pet friendly. I was able to slowly move stuff there while he was at work. I told him I was doing some spring cleaning to clear out the clutter. In the meantime I fucked with their heads. I'd mentioned things about each other that would cause drama, like telling Max that Amy talked about a cute guy from work, or telling Amy that Max mentioned marriage and kids with me. She's infertile due to a childhood illness. The day before I was leaving I set my plan onto motion. I knew where my best friend went for lunch most days of the week, so I watched and waited. When she arrived I went in and pretended I didn't want to throttle her for breaking my trust and my heart. We sat down and chatted and I slyly mentioned sex with Max. In their messages she told him that she didn't want him to sleep with me. Apparently she'd become quite possessive of my BF. I made comments about how sore I was because we did it rough just like I like it. How good he was at oral, you name it, I mentioned it. Her face got redder and redder and it was amazing to watch. I'd seen her react that way before, but I never realized why. She'd always insist on watching late-night movies with us or ask to sleep on our couch instead of going home, and be mad when I had to say no, I want to have privacy with my BF. I just thought she was lonely or a little clingy. But I never would have imagined she didn't want to leave because she wanted to make sure we weren't having sex. Later that day I go home and once again pretend that everything is normal. But I sit down on the couch with him and snuggle up to him while he watches TV. After about 20 minutes I straddle him and ask him how his day was and blah blah blah. Then I bring up that I ran into Amy at lunch and you'll never guess who she was with. I told him how Amy was with Dave, a real-life coworker that has hung out with us multiple times, and how it's so cute that they're dating now. When I say he froze, I don't think he even breathed. He just sort of muttered, I didn't know she was seeing someone. So I tell him all about how I caught them kissing, and after Dave left to go back to work Amy told me all about their amazing sex life. And of course I had to add in there that Dave was the first guy to give her a real O and how she's always had to fake it with guys before. I've never seen him look so dejected before. That night I asked that we do a phone-free night, which we do often so that we could be in our own bubble. I could tell that he was a little hesitant, but he turned his phone off and put it in the basket we use for it. We watched a movie and cuddled on the couch, and he stayed as stiff as a board for the majority of it before he relaxed enough to fall asleep on the couch. Once he was out, I grabbed his work phone and sent out a contact list-wide email about how I may be in a bad mood for the next couple of weeks because my mistress gave me the clap. Then I changed the passcode on it and turned it off. I knew that he wouldn't turn it on until he got to his worksite that was 40 minutes away. As soon as he was out the door I immediately packed my bags, important papers and the dogs and left. I also unscrewed most light bulbs, took the batteries out of the remote, took the router plug-in so he wouldn't have Wi-Fi, and cranked the AC up to 80 F. When I got to my new place, I sent her a text asking how my PY tastes and then blocked them both. Then I posted screenshots to my FB and let everyone know what horrible people they were. The next day his mom called me to talk things over with me. She is an amazing woman who raised him on her own whilst creating a very profitable company. He was initially set to get the company when she unfortunately passes away, but she changed her will so that he only gets the minimum dollar amount and her brother will get the company. I know that hurt him in a way I couldn't imagine because he always talked about running it and taking over for her to make her proud. I just know he cried when she told him that. My ex-neighbor Martha, 70 is an absolute shit starter. If there is drama to be had, she will find it or create it. I'd told her I was moving out and why about a week before I left so she'd keep me in the loop in the aftermath. Amy moved in shortly after I left, and through the thin walls of our duplex, Martha heard everything unfold. Apparently they fought constantly because they couldn't trust each other, go figure. Amy was always yelling about him having sex with me and how she wanted all new furniture because she couldn't sit somewhere where we hadn't been intimate. She is also a mess. Like an actual mess. She doesn't know how to clean, throw out trash, do laundry, or cook. Max has always been and will always be a neat freak. I mean, everything has a place and everything should be in its place kind of man. There's no way they would be able to live together full time without wanting to strangle each other. And Mrs. Martha, bless her cheetah print soul, loved to let Amy know that Max's beautiful sister was coming over a lot now that Op was gone. Of course Max doesn't have a sister and she's lying, but boy did it have the desired effect of an all-out screaming match between them. She's angry he would cheat on her, he's angry the house looks like a garbage pit, she yells because he had sex with me in the kitchen after they had sex in her apartment, he yells that she was the biggest mistake he ever made and he wants me back. That hits her hard apparently, so she starts throwing stuff at him and he calls the cops on her. She already had a bit of a record for fighting at bars and clubs, so when the police get there they detain her and have her sit on the curb out front. Mrs. Martha comes out to be nosy and see what's going on. She gives a statement about what she hears, and as they are putting Amy in the back of the squad car she yells out to Amy to not worry because she's sure Max's sister will come over to help clean the house. When I tell y'all I love this woman with all of my heart. Amy freaks the hell out and starts trying to run at Max and is apparently tased and put in the back of a squad car. Max tells her to stop trying to interfere, but of course that means nothing to mighty Mrs. Martha, so she just smiles and goes back into her house. Amy got released a couple days later after making bail and only went back to the duplex a couple of times, both with police escorts, so we think Max took out an order of protection against her. Max has made multiple Facebook pages to message me and apologize, but I blocked them all immediately. He's called my work as well, but thankfully I work remotely and I'd already told my supervisors not to give out any information regarding me or my contact details. I don't have any siblings or family for them to reach out to, so I figured if they'd try to reach me they would do it through my job. I'm not sure what happened with his work emails, though I'm assuming he had a lot of explaining to do to his bosses, co-workers and business connections. When I think about how he had to have that conversation over and over again, it makes me smiles. Amy has apparently moved to a new state and doesn't talk with anyone in our old friend group, probably because they all came down on her pretty hard. To think about her still breaks my heart. We'd been friends all my life. When my parents died, she was my rock. She made me see past my grief and my depression and want to live again. I try to think about the good times and not let the bad times ruin them for me. When I was reading their messages I could see the evolution of the conversations and the happiness they shared at doing things behind my back. The night I was reading them it was like my ribs burned and my stomach was queasy, but I had to think logically versus emotionally. I didn't truly break down until I got to my new apartment. I just sat on the floor of my new kitchen and cried for what felt like hours. It took me a couple of weeks, but I slowly started to unpack and find a new rhythm in my new life. Juno and Meatloaf, the dogs, helped a lot too. They were a little nervous over the move and not having Max with them, but as of today they are amazing and happy we've moved somewhere with a dog park. This was 4-ish years ago, so I've moved on in life, but it's definitely left some scars. I started therapy 6 months after I moved out and that's helped a lot, but I still haven't been able to put myself into a trusting relationship. I've yet to have another long-term partner as it just gives me too much anxiety and trust issues.